Thanks very much. So, Colonel Dusek said that she was entering the 21st century by reading her remarks from the iPad. I'm stepping back into the 18th century. I have my remarks written on the back of an envelope. For the awardees today, this is for you. And so what I thought I would do is share a couple of stories about what it means to lead, some pointers as you begin the next journey of your life, the next part of the journey of your life. This is by no means a complete list, but a few ideas. One of the things that you will have to do as you grow up is to understand how and when to seize an opportunity. I went for a run with a friend of mine around Central Park, and every week or so there's an organization that organizes races in Central Park. So we were doing one of these formal races, and very often they have a sponsor, and they'll give something away for free at the end, apples or something. On this particular day, they were giving away free bagels. And we passed the finish line, and there was a few cafeteria tables laid up next to each other. And on one side of the cafeteria tables were volunteers handing out bagels. There were boxes of bagels on the tables, and then a long line of runners waiting to be given their free bagel. So I said to my friend, let's get a free bagel. And he says, nah man, I don't want to stand in a line. And I said, free bagels. He's like, nah, I don't want to stand in the line. I was like, free bagels. And that's when I realized there's two kinds of people in this world. There are people who see the thing they want, and there are people who see the thing that's preventing them from getting the thing they want. And so I went up to the line, I leaned in between the line, I put my hands in between a couple of people, I grabbed a couple of bagels, and I got us free bagels. And this is the point, which is you're allowed to take shortcuts, and you're allowed to go after the thing you want. What you're not allowed to do is push someone out of the way and deny them getting the thing that they want. No one got mad at me because I didn't cut the line. I didn't push myself into the line. I simply leaned in. What I sacrificed was choice. I didn't get to choose what I wanted. And this is the point. Stay fixated on the thing you want. Go after the thing you want. Use any means necessary to get the thing you want. But do not deny anybody else from getting the thing that they want. Lesson 2. Tell the truth. It's the most important thing you can ever do. I visited Quantico Marine Base in Quantico, Virginia, and the day I was there, total coincidence, there had been an incident. And so we sat down for a meeting with the colonel, the boss of Quantico. He was going to give us a briefing on what goes on at Quantico, and he showed up a few minutes late. You know it's a big deal when Marines show up a few minutes late. And he apologized. He said, I'm terribly sorry I've been dealing with this incident. We're considering throwing one of our Marines out of OCS, in other words, throwing them out of the Marine Corps. And I thought, this must be serious. I mean, to get thrown out of the Marine Corps. So I said, what did he do? Thinking he broke, what crime did he commit? And the colonel said, he fell asleep on watch. And I said, that's it? He fell asleep on watch in the woods of Virginia. And you're going to throw him out for that? You guys are tough. He says, no, you don't understand. When we asked him about it, he denied it. When we asked him about it again, he denied it again. And only when we gave him irrefutable proof did he say, quote, I want to take responsibility for my actions. The problem we have is you take responsibility for your actions at the time you perform your actions, not at the time you get caught. He said we had another Marine that fell asleep. He admitted it. He got punished. We have no problem with him. The colonel went on to explain to me that he cannot put this would-be leader in a position of responsibility for the lives of other human beings if they're downrange and for 1 minute, if his men doubt that the words coming out of their leader's mouth are anything but the truth, if they think that he's saying anything to cover his own hide or to make himself look better, trust will disintegrate and people will die. The amazing thing is we don't have to be in positions of life or death for people to earn our trust, for people to want to follow us. and believe that we have their interests in mind and not our own. The single greatest thing you can learn to do to earn the trust of those around you is to tell the truth, good or bad, whether it puts you in a good light or a bad light. Telling the truth is really easy, or being honest is really easy. It's just about telling the truth. And so I have a little challenge for you for the next 48 hours, just to prove how difficult it is. So what's the time now? It's about 12:15 on, Friday today, right? So until 12:15 on Sunday, you may not tell a single lie. It's really hard. Because we're conditioned to tell lies. It's not always a bad thing. Somebody gives you a birthday present and you think it's the ugliest thing you've ever seen. And they say to you, do you like it? Do you say no? Or do you say, thank you, I love it, which is a lie. So you have to find other nice ways of saying things. If somebody says, do I look fat in these jeans? You don't say, yes. You say, I like the other ones on you better. The point is, for the next 48 hours, try not telling a lie. Number 3, ask for and accept help. The biggest mistake people make is thinking that they have to know all the answers, or thinking if they don't, that they have to pretend they do. One of the biggest failures of most leaders is the belief that their leadership credibility comes from their intelligence. It doesn't. There was a retired captain from the Navy, Captain David Marquet, who was a career naval officer, submariner, who was given one of the greatest honors any naval officer could ask for. He was given command of his own submarine, a Los Angeles-class, nuclear-powered fast attack sub. How cool is that? He was going to be given command of the USS Olympia, and it was one of the best-rated crews in the whole fleet. And Marquet, like many, believed that his credibility as a leader would be based on his own intelligence. And so he studied that boat for a year. He spent a year on board learning every screw, every nut, every bolt, every valve. He studied the dossiers of his crew. He knew everything about who they were, where they come from, what their educations were. He was going to be a good captain. 2 weeks before he took command of the Olympia, he got a phone call that told him, you won't be the captain of the Olympia, you will be the captain of the Santa Fe. And by the way, it's the worst rated crew in the entire United States submarine fleet. They ranked last or close to last in almost every readiness measurement the Navy had. Marquet didn't want to let anybody know that he was a little bit unfamiliar with this slightly newer ship, so he kept it to himself. And he's still an ambitious guy with a big ego, and he figured, if I give good orders, I'll have a good ship. And if I give great orders, I will have a great ship. And so on the first day, he started barking orders to set sail, and everything was going smoothly. Everybody was following orders. It was great. Second or third day out, submerged, they decided to run an exercise. They turned off the nuclear reactor manually and pretended they had a meltdown, and they ran on battery power. It's called EPM. And Marquet decided to make it a little harder to see how his crew would respond under pressure. So he gave a simple order, ahead 2/3, which means run the boat 2/3 its maximum speed. His number 2 in command, standing right next to him, who incidentally had more experience on the boat than anybody else, 2.5 years aboard the Santa Fe, repeated the command, ahead 2/3, and nothing happened. Marquet peers out from the side of his periscope, and he sees Seaman Jones, a couple stripes on his arm, just sitting there squirming in his seat. Marquet could see it. Marquet says, Seaman Jones, what's the problem? And Seaman Jones replies, sir, there is no 2/3 setting. Apparently on this slightly newer boat, there was just no 2/3 setting on the battery power. So he turns to his number 2, he said, did you know this? He said, mm-hmm. He said, then why did you give the order? He said, 'cause you told me to. And it's at that point Marquet realizes that he's aboard a ship that he doesn't understand, and he has a crew trained for compliance. It's not like he can just turn around and come back and change his crew out or get another boat. This is his crew. And so he was forced to re-understand what leadership means. Leadership is not the captain knowing all the answers. Leadership is trusting that his people knew more than he did. Because the person who did know was Seaman Jones with 2 stripes on his arm, who knew exactly how the ship worked. The people at the top have all the authority, but the people at the bottom have all the information. The goal is not to push the information up. The goal is to push the authority down. Trust people that they know how to do their jobs, and when they offer you help, say yes. Admit you don't know things. Because when you admit you don't know things, people will help. When you say you know everything, it's not that people don't want to help, they just don't think you need it. Ask for and accept help. Take the risk to trust people. That's the next lesson. Bob Chapman, who's a dear friend of mine, runs a large manufacturing company in St. Louis called Barry Waymiller. Historically, in factories in this country, we treat management differently than we treat the people who work on a factory floor. For example, if you work in management and you need supplies, you go to the supply cabinet, you open it up, you take out pens and papers or whatever you need. If you work on the factory floor, you ask permission to go to the supply cage that's kept under lock and key so that someone else can sign out stuff that you may need. If you work in management, if you're going to be home late from work, you pick up the phone, you call your kids, you tell them you're going to be home late. If you work on a factory floor, you ask permission to go to the payphone to call your kids to tell them you're going to be home late. And it creates this division. We think that because someone doesn't have a college education that they're untrustworthy. Nonsense. And so Bob took the risk of trust without any fanfare, without running any studies, without asking for anything in return. He simply ordered that all the locks be removed from all the cages and that people could sign out their own equipment if they wanted it. He took the risk of trust. He got rid of all the payphones and put in company phones that anybody could use at any time. He got rid of all of the whistles that indicate when somebody should start work, when they should take a break, and when they should stop work. He figured if in management they know when to start their jobs, on a factory floor people know when to start their jobs. We don't need to blow whistles. He took the risk of trust, asking for nothing in return. Morale went up, theft went down. Because when we trust people, they rise to the occasion. And when we don't trust people, they rise to the occasion. Leadership means taking the risk of trust even if it goes the wrong way, because you'll be responsible for when something doesn't go right. This is one of the fun things about leadership. When everything goes right, you give the credit away. And when everything goes wrong, you take all the responsibility. That's what it means to lead. This is my favorite story of all. Remember who you are. There was an Undersecretary of Defense who was giving a speech at a large conference of like 1,000 people. And he was recently retired. So he was the former undersecretary, one of the former undersecretaries of defense. And he was standing on the stage giving his speech, his prepared remarks, and while he was talking, he was taking a sip out of a cup of coffee he had in this styrofoam cup. And he sort of looks down and smiles and interrupts his prepared remarks. And he says, last year I was the secretary, I was the undersecretary, and I spoke at this exact same event in this exact same venue last year. Except last year, while I was still undersecretary, they flew me here business class. They had a car waiting for me to take me from the airport to the hotel. Someone had already checked me in and escorted me up to my room. The next morning I came downstairs, there was someone waiting for me in the lobby, and they took me. to this same venue. They took me in the back entrance, they took me into the green room, and they handed me a cup of coffee in a beautiful ceramic cup. He says, I'm no longer the undersecretary. I flew here coach. I took a taxi from the hotel to the airport. I checked myself in. This morning, I took another taxi to the same venue. I walked in the front door. I found my way to the backstage. And when I asked somebody, do you have any coffee? He pointed to the coffee machine in the corner, and I poured myself a cup of coffee into this here styrofoam cup. He says the lesson is, the ceramic cup was never meant for me. It was meant for the position I hold. I deserve a styrofoam cup. We all deserve styrofoam cups. As you become more successful, as you do well in life, you will be afforded many advantages. People will call you sir and ma'am. They'll carry your luggage. They'll hold doors open for you. They will bring you a cup of tea without you even asking for it. But it's not meant for you. It's meant for the position you hold. And when you move on, they will give all those things to the person who replaces you. Never, ever forget that you only ever deserved a styrofoam cup. Go forth and do well. Thank you very, very much.